Are we ready? Yes. Then let's kick off the second session from the operations track. Hello and a warm welcome from my side. My name is Markus Bechler from SAP. I'm the responsible product manager for the application integration and exception monitoring in SAP Focus-Run as well as in SAP Cloud ALM. Today we will talk about monitor integrations between SAP components with SAP Cloud ALM. And I'm really happy to have Dimitri Sannen from the value chain company with me, and he will explain a bit the view from the customer side later on. Just to start, as always, yes, please spread the word, hashtag ALM Summit, use the hashtag in the social media posts, and as always, we have to show the disclaimer, and then we come very fast to the agenda. I will give, as usual, a short overview about integration exception monitoring. Maybe some of you know already the things. We did some enhancements to the UIs that I will cover in the slides. I will then hand over to Dimi that he can present the customer view. I will do a short demo in the live system later on. I will talk a little bit about a topic which we introduced this year, the so-called next generation data collection infrastructure, which we heavily use in integration exception monitoring to adopt or to integrate new content into our application. And at the end, I will spend a few words on the roadmap. As you all know, what is integration monitoring about? We try to ensure reliable data exchange between cloud services and systems. As you may remember, last year on the ALM Summit, we just released also the support for on-premise systems. This doesn't change, so it doesn't matter if we have on-premise systems connected to SAP Cloud ALM or we have only cloud-centric landscape in front of us. We can collect every messages from nearly every system in the meantime. We support in the meantime nearly 40 SAP products in integration monitoring, and also the smaller BTP applications which grow very fast. We adopt at the moment also quickly into integration exception monitoring. We typically collect the data from each and every cloud service via our old approach, via tenant-to-tenant integration, and also via our new approach, the next generation data collection infrastructure. We collect everything into our application and we visualize the data then in our UIs, and you can work with the application, and you can also do some configurations on erroneous messages, for example, to alert someone who is responsible for a broken message or a broken chain in the end. The same applies for hybrid scenarios. If we have an Ariba in place which is communicating via an SAP process orchestration with SAP S/4HANA on-premise, we can also collect the data from there. We use there our own collection implementation on the on-premise side that we regularly push the data towards SAP Cloud ALM. What can you expect from the application? First of all, we offer an overview across all cloud services and systems. You can configure this page to your needs. You can select the scope. For example, you can choose the systems which you have regularly to check. You can select your business services or so-called integration scenarios from our end. And you can mark these services as favorites so that you have always the same view if you enter the application. We offer an end-to-end monitoring by correlating single integration artifacts with each other so that we can visualize in the end the message flow. For this, we use the SAP Passport, which is an old technology within SAP where we manipulate the HTTP header with some transport informations. We use this information to correlate the messages, and later on we will also use open telemetry correlators for correlating messages with each other. This will come later on. Also next year we will be able to have this available. We support message flows which are processed via orchestration platforms like SAP Integration Suite, as well as peer-to-peer interface technologies where we have a direct connection between certain SAP systems or cloud services. As you can see on the screenshot, there's a message correlation, so we jump into one specific message and we correlate automatically the messages which belongs together via our correlation mechanism. and so you have the chance to see where maybe the message flow broke. We completely redesigned our search and track functionality. I will show this later on in the demo. It's a complete new page and a new behavior how we can search and how we visualize the search results. In the meantime, we can search across messages and exceptions. This was introduced recently that we can search about exceptions. I will show this later on. You can search also for business context attributes like in purchase order number, and then we will simply show in the search result all messages which contains this particular purchase order number, for example. Beside that, we have an embedded monitoring overview for the occurred exceptions. This is an own page in our application, which is available also with some smaller embedded analytics capabilities. So we collect also the exceptions from, for example, from the Marketing Cloud, where we have some application log available for marketing data imports, or we have also the integration suite here enabled, where we collect the erroneous integration artifacts. If there is a deployment issue detected, then we can collect this information, and you can work completely separately with the exception monitoring overview to get an understanding how my exceptions are trending, for example, from the application log or from the integration suite artifact deployment errors. In the whole application, you have the possibility to use the embedded alerting. As Janko already said, we have an alert inbox in each and every application. You as a customer or you as a user, completely free to define your events, and out of an event, we can create an alert. This alert will be then represented in the alert inbox, but we can also simply send out an email notification. We can send out a MS Teams message in the meantime, or we can create directly a ticket in a ServiceNow instance, for example, as you may saw already on Ralph's presentation, where this is used heavily. We have a deep integration with operation automation. That means in the end you can define your own operation flows, for example, using SAP BTP workflow engine or the process automation framework to define operations flow, and you can attach a certain operation flow to an alert instance, and the processor of the alert can simply execute this operation flow where maybe error resolution is described to simply fix the issue. That's also possible. We for sure try to minimize the necessary data volume. You can imagine in integration monitoring we deal with a huge data volume. We have only this 8 GB available from a fair usage point of view for you as a customer, so that means in the end we have to take care that we keep as much data as necessary to simply not lose the RCA context. So the maximum retention period in integration monitoring is 14 days. Afterwards, the data will be aggregated, and at the moment, it's not possible to visualize it in the application, but you can extract the data via a public API. So we have an outbound API where you can extract the data into Grafana to build your own dashboards on the aggregated data. We have the plans to integrate also an embedded analytics part, but this is still planned. I hope we can do something in this direction next year. With that, I will just hand over to Dimitri from the value chain. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Marcus. Thanks all. Thank you for being here. Good morning. Like Marcus already said, Dimitri Sanne, working for the Belgium SAP partner, the value chain. Today, I want to bring you a typical customer case. Of course, in my area, the integration, where we see Cloud ALM coming into play. I think first of all, pretty known. Customers are moving and going to the integration suite with its typical capabilities. I highlighted, of course, the most interesting one, cloud integration. But also, a lot of customers still on-prem using process orchestration as being the most strategic middleware for years. But you also maybe already heard today, 2027. So the sunset of the business suite, but also solution manager, and sometimes a bit unfortunate, process orchestration. So we have to say goodbye to process orchestration, and we have to move to the integration suite. So of course, we talk about migration. Typically, during these migrations, you have your integration suite and your process orchestration system together in your landscape for a couple of months, maybe longer. So you will definitely face some challenges during that migration period, of course. Most obvious one, I think, of course, new interfaces will be introduced on the integration suite, definitely. You will not build new things on process orchestration, of course. But in the meantime, you still have to maintain those older interfaces on SAP PO. And important thing to do also, you have to guarantee stability. Onboarding new interfaces, changes on the old ones, but still, end-to-end, you have to make sure that everything keeps on running on a daily basis. So monitoring is key. You want to have a look on how things are performing now. But also, when you go home, you still want to have an idea if something goes wrong. So you have to react quickly on errors. And so typically, the alerting part comes into play. All of this, like I said, Cloud ALM is coming into play. And I can talk now briefly about how customers perceive Cloud ALM. Some reasons are obvious, other ones are not. I think first of all, and this is a pretty important one, in Belgium it's not that known. Please check your licenses, your Rise and Grow with SAP and enterprise support. Pretty sure Cloud ALM is in. Sometimes customers are surprised to see they have Cloud ALM already in their license. So check that, don't forget it, it's an important one. You also saw, I think, for those who were in the Miele session, a very short lead time to success. So you request the provisioning, SAP prepares the tenant for you. So between I want to go for it and I can start with it, it's not even an hour. So you have a very short lead time to success. Of course, and also for me, very important, I will show you some screenshots. Very unified and tangible look and feel. I will show you in a minute. When you see data, you already also saw it on Marcus' slides, it's very intuitive. You don't have to be an expert to drill down to the things you need. You don't have to go on a course to understand what you see. So for me, it's more like a natural, intuitive way of using the system. For those of you who use Solution Manager, that's something different sometimes. So Cloud ALM is completely different. So natural and intuitive way to go through the system and to drill down to data you want to see. And of course, SAP Cloud ALM is a long-term solution. If you have questions, feel free to interrupt them. Just to give you an idea how it looks, like we said in the beginning, you have, of course, the integration suite as a future-proof and strategic middleware, left side. And you have also your process orchestration system, the typical on-prem middleware. And also this is on the right side. Without clicking, you can already see a lot. You can already see what is going on. You see red things, potentially errors. You see some warnings, and you see, luckily, also a lot of successful messages. So these screenshots are just real customer screenshots. I didn't enhance them. I just took them like they are. You can also see we have some open alerts, unfortunately. For the integration suite 3 and process orchestration, we see 6. You also have, on the left bottom side, you have a quality sign. So this means, for me, quality is good. So data is being transferred real time in the background. So data I see is actual data, it's relevant data. There's no problem with data exchange, getting monitoring data from the different systems, because integration suite, of course, is a BTP service. And SAP PO, process orchestration, is a typical on-prem system. So luckily, there is no error or something else going on getting that monitoring data into Cloud ALM. So that's all something I see without even clicking somewhere. Very intuitive. If I click once, I come to the alerting detail. I won't go into detail, of course, but again here, you immediately see what's going on. Seems to be an error in process orchestration, and it seems to be something with a secure invoice. Of course, for every single alert, for every single event which is occurring in Cloud ALM, you can do some specific actions. If you want, you can do them manually. You can assign to somebody. You can send out an alert email. So you can do a lot of things manually, of course also automated, but you can act on an alert in Cloud ALM. So that's click number 3. So you already are where you want to be with only 3 clicks. All right? To give you an idea how intuitive and for me feels like a more natural feeling. Of course, in the beginning I said about the monitoring part. You want to react quickly on errors, so you want to see what's going on, but you also want to get notified, preferably when things are going wrong. I made 2 screenshots. On the left side, of course, you have that typical native out-of-the-box alerting email, which is provided to you by Cloud ALM, of course. And also here again, you immediately see what's going on, and you get a nice link, the blue part. You get a nice link where you directly jump, of course, to Cloud ALM and to that specific error directly. So that could be click number 4. On the right side, it's just a bit a personal matter, the customer side, because we are all used to receive emails, and sometimes messages are getting lost. But an alert email from Cloud ALM is pretty important because an alert means action is required. So therefore, we were looking for an alternative. And for me, I don't know you guys, but for me, I'm pretty sure, pretty much living in Microsoft Teams with chats and channels and stuff like that. So what we did, I asked the automation team to give me some kind of automation. And I need an endpoint. I want to trigger that endpoint, and I want to see something popping up in Microsoft Teams natively. For them, it was a walk in the park. On the Cloud ALM side, it's also a walk in the park because I just could enter that endpoint in my configuration. So instead of reacting on an event, sending out an email, I triggered an automation, an IRPA. And again, my alerting information comes directly and natively into my Teams channel. And here again, with only the information I need, and again, with a direct link to Cloud ALM and to that alert. So from a customer perspective, I think what you have to keep in your mind, short lead time to success, intuitive, natural drill down, and out of the box, there is already a lot available. And I think, I don't know, Marcus, maybe you had a demo in mind. Yes. So I will step away and I will make some room for Marcus to give you some real insights into the system.
Thank you very much, Dimi.
That's a typical resistance that we face from that side, whereas they're used to the inbuilt PO monitoring where they just get everything within the system.
At the moment, we don't have the capability to jump to the PO system directly. We have this on our list. It's not so easy to achieve that we can jump to an on-premise system from the cloud world, but we have it on our list to work on it. Because it's also a request from other customers in the direction of S/4HANA on-premise, Business Suite on-premise, etc. So therefore, we are aware of this, black.
CI can be going to CPI directly? No, right? None of the managed systems. And we can't jump into any of the alert systems from the inbox, right?
If you have, okay, you mean from the email itself? This is a point which we have on the roadmap for next year, that we provide more details into the email with maybe a configurable link that you can jump directly to the system. So this is we have this in mind, hopefully for next year. What you can do today is you can go to the alert and you can then press on the message ID, I can show this, and then you can jump from the message ID, for example, towards the CPI tenant or to the S/4HANA Cloud tenant. That's the workaround at the moment, yes. So now we saw a lot of screenshots. I want to use the time also to show it real life in our demo system. I will just end the show and we'll switch here to our demo environment. What we just recently enabled is also the new Morning Horizon theme, which is now also applied for all applications in Cloud ALM, and also the Launchpad is now in the new design available, and also all applications are adapted to this new design. So we are following here the overall approach. I just started the integration exception monitoring page. Most of you hopefully are aware of this overview page because this is now available since quite a while. I just will take an example from the CPI side where we see an end-to-end message flow which is correlated in the end. We have in the middle our external workforce business scenario. We have created a so-called business service where we simply added the respective S/4HANA Cloud tenant, the respective integration suite tenant, and also the field class tenant. In this scenario, we have a replication of work orders between field class and S/4HANA. And in this example, I can just show how it works. From here, we can go to the details. That means we jump in our so-called topology view. This is drawn out of the business service. You can define which service are talking to which service so that we can draw the lines in the end. And you get also an overview about your business service here in the header information. You see how many messages are transferred in a time frame. We typically start the application with the today time frame from tonight until now. We see that we have some exceptions also occurred. We can directly jump to the open alerts from here, and we have also the status events now available in the topology view. This was added recently that you can see, okay, there is some maintenance planned for the field class tenant. It's actually now, so that you have this information present if you are working with the application. Because it could be the case that you don't see maybe any messages for this time window from the field class tenant, and then you see directly, okay, there's a maintenance ongoing, the tenant is in maintenance mode, and the data collection is not happening at the moment. From here, you have the chance to simply click on each and every node. We will then open up on the right-hand side the so-called configured categories for each and every service type. For example, in field class, we have only one category enabled. In CPI, you see two categories enabled, one for the exceptions and one for the messages. And if we switch to the S/4HANA Cloud side, then you will see two exceptions categories and one message category for the AIF messages. If we have, for example, a business suite system or an S/4HANA on-premise system, then you will see also on the list the iDocs, the web service calls, and so on and so forth. Those data is also available, and we collect the data in the meantime. From here, I can simply navigate to the S/4HANA Cloud messages. So I'm interested in the erroneous ones. I jump then to a so-called message summary view, where we have also some visual filters available that you can see the distribution about the namespaces, about the interfaces, and also you can group the messages by the status. In this case, I'm only interested in the erroneous ones. I can simply switch to the filter, and then I have only the relevant messages here in the screen visible. From here, I'm now interested in this technical error, what is going on here, and I can now press either on the message ID directly, or I can use the arrow on the right-hand side to drill further down. On this page, we see all available information which we get from the cloud service itself. So there's a definition what the cloud service has to send to Cloud ALM. That's more or less the status details. So we have to get a status, we have to get a status text, we have to get a direction and a start time and end time, because we need the start and the end time to calculate the processing time. This was also added a few months ago. We have now here the processing time in place. This was also a customer request that we can see how long it takes that the message is being processed. From here, we can directly jump to the local monitoring. In this case, we would directly jump into the AIF monitor on the S/4HANA Cloud side, and we will open up context-sensitive, the monitoring tool here. The application data is a kind of freedom for our cloud services or for our cloud LOBs. We offer this kind of section to them to provide the most valuable data for the customer. So that means there you will find necessary information for you. In this example, it's a bit bad because there are no so-called key fields available. I just checked them in a minute if there is another message available. So, but this is the data which we get, and you can also from here jump directly to the system itself to check what is going on there. We also extract the log messages from the AIF framework in this case, so you see directly what was the issue here to maybe inform the right colleague also in upfront. If we scroll further down, we see our related messages and exception part. This is now the place where our correlation engine comes into the game. I drilled down on one single S/4HANA Cloud message into this detail view, and in the meantime, if I enter this screen, we correlate or we try to find all associated messages to the same transaction ID, which is covered by the SAP Passport. In this case, we see that we have an issue on the S/4HANA Cloud, but the sender system, CPI, and the triggering system, the field glass tenant, was working fine. So that means the issue is directly in the S/4HANA Cloud system occurred, so that someone has to fix it and simply to re-trigger this message then locally again. From here, you can also navigate through the different messages, for example. Also you can also see, okay, I want to check my CPI message. I get a short sneak peek here in the bottom. I can also press on the message ID, and I can now jump to the CPI message from here. So I must not change in the topology view and have to select the CPI tenant. I can directly go from here to the respective system. That is how you can work ad hoc with the application. So it's the typical daily work maybe that you can enter the application in the morning and you can check all the systems which you have in your scope. Then we have on the left-hand side our exceptions. As I said before, there's an own or a separate page available to work with the exception. As you can see, also here the business services are represented as own tiles. We see then here in the top that we have maybe some SAP S/4HANA Cloud Asset Central Foundation errors. I can click on it and then I get also a history and I get also a trend, how many exceptions are evolving over a certain period of time, and can work with this exception monitoring application. If I'm interested in more details about the exception, I can drill further down, and from here I can also see some more information which are provided by the application log in this case, for example. Then I will just show our new designed tracking page. It's the same thing as before. We try to keep the search as simple as possible. You can select between your services which are selected in your scope, or you can also say, I want to search specifically in one business service which is added to your scope. You have also the chance to say, okay, I want to search in my favorites. Then you have simply to click on this checkbox here, and then you will see that the business services are extended and the services are also extended with the services which are marked as favorites. I will just search for a star here to put out one specific message. Let me just check where we have one. I want to have one thing. I just grabbed this object reference here, and you already see in the search result that we now have a tab available for the messages and a separate tab for the exceptions. So you can switch between the exceptions and the messages. As I said, we are also able to search for specific attributes. As you saw, I just grabbed the object reference from field class, and I'm now interested where I find exactly this message. And I found exactly one field class message, and we simply show then also the matching attributes in bold, so that this is directly visible to you from where we found this string in the message format. From here, you can drill down further into our message detail view. It's the same view as you saw before. From here, you can also have a look at the related messages and exceptions. One thing to mention is if there is a related exception available, for example, in the S/4HANA Cloud tenant, also exceptions have an SAP passport information. We also show the exceptions here below as a separate tab, if there is an exception which is associated to this transaction ID. With this advanced search button at the moment, you can only filter for the related categories. So if you are interested in only searching for the integration suite messages, you can define this. Then we will only search in the integration messages from CPI. We will enhance this advanced search also over the time. We have some ideas in mind that we can add here more filters, but at the moment we just started with the related categories. Then, as Dimi already mentioned, we have the alert inbox available from where you can directly work with the alerts which are occurred in the system. You can directly jump from the email notification into the respective alert. From here, you can then work with the alert. As you already saw on the screenshot, I have some actions available here. I can simply confirm the alert if it is already solved. I can assign a processor if I know someone who can fix this quickly. I can send out an email notification. I can trigger the operation flow, as I mentioned earlier. And if I have a ticket system integration established, I can create directly a ticket. Or, as we saw already on the screenshot, I can send out a chat notification to MS Teams natively at the moment. Also here, you can see the component status. So it's also mentioned here. I'm just a bit confused because I scheduled a maintenance window that we have to check. But it's also visible here in the alert. So the idea is simply that you everywhere in the applications can see if a status event is triggered for this particular cloud service. Then I want to just mention one thing what is also now available since a few weeks. We got the request also from some customers or the ask how many megabyte or gigabyte are consuming by integration monitoring and how many megabytes are consuming by the messages. We did here a two-step approach. First of all, you have in the configuration panel under the application settings now the aggregated memory size for the messages available. You see we consume in this particular tenant nearly 70 megabyte. If you are interested how this is distributed across the systems, you can press on the details and you will then directly see how many messages are stored for one particular service type. And by default, we hide simply the entries where we have no records in the database. So this is a function which came in recently. With that, I'm finished with the demo and I will just switch back to the slides because I want to highlight something. In the past, we had two approaches to collect data from our cloud services. We had the push approach and the pull approach. It was more or less the decision of the cloud service, how we approach the data and how we get the data. We had some challenges with this approach also, and we get some negative feedback sometimes that the implementation effort, especially by SAP development teams, are too high, and therefore we established the next generation data collection infrastructure. I'm not sure if Janko talked about this in his session already, but I will just spend a few words on it, how we use it in integration monitoring. The idea is simply that we can integrate SAP business technology platform-based applications in a standardized way with minimal effort. As you can imagine, at the moment, with this whole cloud ERP story, many BTP applications are built for several use cases for the customer, and every and each BTP application comes at some point in time to integration monitoring and wants to integrate with us. And therefore, we had to find a way how we can them integrate in an efficient way. In the end, also, it's important for you as a customer that you don't have more effort with this approach. So we achieved this already, that we have less effort on the customer side. And the second part, what we want to achieve with this is that we hopefully can also monitor third-party and non-SAP systems later on with this approach. So there's some library available, and we are in preparing those things for next year to open it up, that we can collect also non-SAP monitoring data into integration exception monitoring. We simply minimized with this next generation data collection infrastructure the instrumentation efforts for the customer, for partners, and as well for the SAP development teams. We will also see a session from SAP IT later this week where this approach is explained with an own developed BTP application. We unified the runtime for push-based and pull-based data collection. We provide a unified approach for customer-facing as well for SAP internal use cases, so the data is routed into the two worlds. And we established then also the import and the export data from third-party services systems based on the OpenTelemetry standard based inbound APIs. That you get an impression how fast we are since we started this initiative. You can see this here. So in the third quarter this year, we already enabled 4 bigger BTP solutions very fast with this next generation data collection infrastructure. And for Q4, we have planned 2, 4, 6, 7 smaller BTP applications to be live end of the year, and we have still, I guess, 3 or 4 more in the pipeline for Q4, but there are some open points on their side not clarified yet, so we will move them to Q1 next year. But as you can see, we are very fast in adopting new applications into integration and exception monitoring. From a roadmap point of view, what you can expect in the future from integration and exception monitoring, we will do some improvements and enhancements to the search and track functionality. Especially, we want to introduce favorites. That means if you have a search which you will execute regularly, you can save this search pattern as a favorite, and this favorite can be triggered every time you enter the search page. We will introduce exactly for this processing time, which you saw a few minutes ago, we want to introduce a new event. You can then simply say, if the processing time is higher than 10 milliseconds, I want to raise an event, and out of this event, I want to create an alert. We will provide more or enhanced event details in the notifications. So here we're waiting a bit of the colleagues from AEM, from the event management part, so that we can simply send more data towards the notification management framework. That means then in the end, if you have some custom header attributes maintained for CPI, then you can also visualize this data then in the notification email. Because this was a customer request from many customers that they want to have some business attributes also visible in the emails. We plan to expose the complete raw data from integration exception monitoring via outbound APIs, so that you can really build a huge dashboard on the raw data, which we have in our database tables. This will come in Q4 this year. We plan to have support for sure for the edge integration cell. This is a big topic for next year for us, which is on the roadmap, because everyone is talking about edge integration cell, and we have to make sure that we also monitor this new solution then. We will integrate the so-called intelligent event processing variant management. We will do some smaller enhancements to the message monitoring in S/4HANA Cloud, especially for the AIF message monitoring. There are some more information available on the S4 side to find the error resolution. We try to collect this data in addition to visualize it, and we will also make some enhancements to the usage measurement pop-up which you saw just a minute ago. So that's roughly the plan we have in mind for the next 2 to 3 quarters. With that, I can only repeat, if you have customer requests or if you have ideas, then please use the recently launched influence campaigns. There's one campaign available for the operations part, and you can directly say, I'm interested in to submit an idea for integration monitoring, and if you get 5 votes, then we will definitely look into it, and will hopefully then also put it on our roadmap if the capacity is simply there.